This is a Fox News alert. Those are scenes from last night in Ferguson, Missouri, where police clashed with rioters and looters for the fourth night since the Ferguson Police Department officers shot and killed an unarmed Michael Brown. Heavily armed police shot tear gas to disperse crowds. They declared a curfew and grabbed cell phones from citizens trying to film the action. They even went so far as to arrest 2 reporters from the Washington Post and the Huffington Post. Missouri Governor Jay Nixon just moments ago announced he was replacing the St. Louis County Police with a new lead police department, the Missouri Highway Patrol. As Missouri braces for nightfall, President Obama pried himself off the golf course to deliver some remarks.
There is never an excuse for violence against police or for those who would use this tragedy as a cover for vandalism or looting. There's also no excuse for police to use excessive force against peaceful protests or to throw protesters in jail for lawfully exercising their First Amendment rights. Now's the time for healing. Now's the time for peace and calm on the streets of Ferguson.
So the question, is Ferguson and the Missouri Governor Jay Nixon over-militarizing the town? Let's bring it around. Greg, your thoughts on a serious show of force, right?
There are 3 angles to this story. There's the left, there's the right, and there's the libertarian. The left sees this tragedy and uses it to brand society as a pit of racial injustice. The right uses it often to lecture on culture and lawlessness. And then the libertarians bemoan the militarization of police. The solution to all of this is just to say they're all right. Every one of those perspectives is correct. There are parts of society where there is racial injustice. There are problems with culture and lawlessness, and they do look like they're, commandos. So why can't we all agree with that? But the reason why we can't agree with it is because agreement is boring. If we all agree with each other, then there's no more news, and then there's no conflict, and the media loves conflict.
Dana, do you think they went too far with putting some serious vehicles and the whole the camouflage uniforms and whatnot? Did they need to go that far? Maybe some would say, yeah, that works.
So this might be really boring, but I agree with you because I just don't think we know enough. So when President Obama came out today, one of the things he said is that we need a full investigation. But while he is saying that, he was putting the considerable weight of his thumb on the scale against the police. I'm not quite ready to do that. I can see that people have legitimate grievances from all sides, legitimate concerns. I actually think a full investigation is smart. I really like the idea of changing out the police force, not because the police necessarily have specifically done anything wrong, but because in order to get a full pivot to the next stage of this, which is hopefully reconciliation and then the investigation that comes out with a full report, I think that had to happen. And the police chief, the interview that he did with Cavuto from Ferguson, Missouri, he was very impressive. I thought he was great.
Bob, before we get to some of the sound of the various people weighing in on this, we'd like you to weigh in on what we've seen so far.
Well, Ferguson is very similar to a lot of suburbs around big cities. I think about Prince George's County outside of Washington, which was 80% white, 85% white, is now almost predominantly all black. Ferguson was the same way. One of the byproducts of that is you end up with a police force that is disproportionately white and not as many black members. That does not excuse what happened. I go back to what I said yesterday. It's a small percentage. I think using force like that draws the kind of media in there that wants to see that kind of thing. You believe me when I tell you the media loves those pictures. The fact that these people got arrested, if they were denying what police said, the last thing I will say is for the police to take somebody's camera is way beyond the pale.
That's exactly what I want to throw to Andrea. Did they go too far to take not only citizens' cameras, reporters' cameras as well?
Well, I think what you have
let me correct that. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. They didn't take them. They made them stop filming. That's what they did.
Well, think about what we have here. We have citizen journalists now, which we didn't have before. So instead of just the news media being there, we have people on the streets using their cell phones to film. We have people filming what's going on the streets. So it is starting to spiral out of control, no question. I am shocked that the president would get involved in this at this point. I mean, I'm not surprised because he's stuck his nose into other local issues. But to Greg's point, there's the right, there's the middle, and then there's the left side of this. But then there's also the people who aren't there And that's most of us. And that's what the chief of police tried to come out and say. He's like, look, the president is not helping the situation out by making comments from the vineyard today. I mean, did he get his updates yesterday in between doing the Macarena at the party was at?
Honest with you, John,
I mean, I just feel like it didn't help. And Dana's absolutely right. The president would have been perfect in pitch with his remarks, but instead, his comment about excessive force by the police that have resisted using excessive force on Sunday night, they backed off on Sunday night, and it only got worse. To me, the president only inflamed the situation. He should have said, the reason we can't have this investigation is because we've been too focused on the rioting, stopped the rioting, and called for peace. But he didn't.
I have a lot of sound to get to. Let me, guys, if you don't mind, we're going to give you one perspective, the opposite perspective, and then something I think we can all agree on. Give us the first one, Kevin Jackson first.
There are many, many more instances of the police doing great things in not only the black community, but across the nation. And you get an incident like this where we don't even know all the facts, and everybody's automatically jumping to the conclusion that the police have done something wrong. I would ask the folks in black neighborhoods, would you rather the cops not be here, or would you rather they be here to protect you?
Now, Bob, that might be the other side of your argument there.
Well, yeah, but also I just want to say one thing. Obama did say there's never an excuse for violence against police or for those who would use this tragedy as a cover for vandalism or eluding. I think that the President of the United States says, you know, if he doesn't say something, you all say he should say something, or he gets his nose in. Look, it's got the potential to spiral out. And I will guarantee you what's happening here is a lot of the professional agitators from around the country are on airplanes coming to this site. I mean, people who are, you know, former Panther people like that, they tend to gather in something like this. And my worry is that you're seeing people here who have nothing to do with the whole deal, just to stir things up.
You know, what Kevin Jackson said is an important point, which is great things are never filmed, rarely filmed. The bad things are. So the solution for all of this is cameras, but only if they capture not just the lawlessness, but also the law enforcer equally. So you have a mutually assured destruction. Cameras everywhere where it isn't private, it's public, will help eliminate the ambiguity and the suspicion that surrounds such incidents. So we know what happened.
It may be a good deterrent as well.
Yeah, exactly.
If you know the camera's rolling, you may not do something that may be, you know, implicate you later. Dana, you want to weigh in on this one?
I've had one thought about the media piece of it, which was I think one of the things that the police department could have done and maybe could do is invite those reporters along. Say that, you know what, we'll embed you with us. These are our rules. We just want to make sure that you're safe. But if you want to find out about this story, take them with you. That's kind of like having a camera on your head, because I think first-hand eyewitness accounts are really important, and that's something that the media and the police could actually work together and then solve the problem that Greg's describing.
I think I'm going to invest in GoPro. Can you imagine if every police officer in the country had a GoPro? Can I get Andrea another?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
This one, Kevin Jackson?
Yeah, I think he was right on point with what he said. And my issue, and I'm going to go back to this to respond with what Bob said, when President Obama made that comment about the police, my issue is that he put then the police on the same moral equivalency as the rioters. So he chastised both of them. And look, these images, they're brutal. The police getting Molotov cocktails thrown at them. They look like they have militarized the area. But again, we don't know what's going on there. And I don't know if the DOJ is right in their investigation. Maybe Eric Holder is right. Maybe there's a legitimate civil rights issue here. The problem is all of these extra comments, the president's comments today, the rioting, they don't help us get closer to getting the answers of what really happened.
Let me get this in, Bob. I know you want to you can comment after this. Let's listen to John Lewis now. Honestly, this is kind of a little bit surprising, but listen.
President Obama should use the authority of his office to declare martial law, federalize the Missouri National Guard to protect people as they protest, and people should come together. If we fail to act, the fires of frustration and discontent will continue to burn, not only in federal Missouri, but all across America.
Now, Bobby, are you surprised that Representative Lewis, who knows a thing or two about protests, would go so far as to say President Obama should declare martial law?
I'm not, because in his era of protesting, that was exactly what happened. And I think John has not, I mean, the Times he did a magnificent job when he did it. Can I make one other point about the press? There have been 2 town meetings that have been packed, and people have been waiting on the outside to try to get in. I don't know about the rest of you. I saw no coverage of those town meetings, which were fairly dignified. Some people were allowed, but I saw plenty of footage of glass being broken. That's the problem. Then you have, when Obama says First Amendment rights are exactly right, but they also include, it seems to me, is covering the whole story. And if you don't go into a place where they have two peaceful, packed town meetings, hundreds of thousands, maybe 1,000 people, you're not getting that side of the story.
Fair enough.
Well, I mean, it's an image race. Right now, people are looking for the most explosive images, and a lot of these images are feature intimidating figures, the police dressed in this certain manner. And when you see this, it's disturbing to see decent citizens standing there and men who really look like they should be in Afghanistan. But it undermines what is really an important purpose, which is intimidation, which is necessary. It eliminates the need for force. If no cop wants to put their hands on you, because in this age they're going to get sued because they're being filmed, their lives will be ruined. So intimidating, being a force of intimidation, hopefully ends the conflict before a conflict starts. But it doesn't look that way on camera. Instead, it looks like David and Goliath, and the media loves David and Goliath. They love that story. They beat it to death.
Can I pick a piece of sound here that I think maybe a lot of people who are watching, probably, hopefully everyone at the table would agree with? Take a listen. This is Mayor of Ferguson.
How do you feel about the arrival or the presence of Al Sharpton?
I have the concerns that we'll lose sight of this young man and the tragedy, and become clearly a national spectacle. And instead of focusing on this young man and then the issues at hand. So sometimes star power is not always a good thing.
Would you agree with the mayor?
How can you not?
Yeah.
I mean, again, there may be a legitimate wrongdoing here by the police. We just don't know yet. The problem is every time you see Al Sharpton, you go right to race. And then nobody focuses on the facts anymore because you have one side trying to make this about race, the Al Sharptons of the world. He doesn't have the greatest track record. And then you have the other side that's trying to make it about everything but what went on. And then it just becomes this fight between right and left, and you have more division. But yes, I mean, look, Al Sharpton so far and up until this point, he's condemned the violence. He hasn't said anything completely inflammatory that I have heard, but it's just the connotation and the association that makes it far worse. And again, President Obama should have not said anything today. I don't think he helped the situation.
I think it's interesting that we checked right before, the population of Ferguson is only 21,000 people. So now not only do you have this explosive situation, now you have national media attention and the national divisive figures coming, and a huge, well, not even just a national story, this is probably an international story by now to say, look at what's happening in America. I think that Al Sharpton takes away the perspective that everyone could have, and that the mayor, the police chief, the governor, that the calm that they're trying to bring to the area.
Well, I don't think it's going to be calm. For what happens here, the most explosive of these things like this is during the funeral. And when this kid gets in the hearse and they take him down and they take him to a graveyard, there's going to be potential for a lot of unrest. Now, Al Sharpton is Al Sharpton. We all know about that. It doesn't help. On the other hand, I have a feeling this is a bigger story than perhaps we want it to be. There has been frustration building up. There always is. And the summertime is the worst time to have these things.
Bob, before we go, Greg, you want to weigh in on this one?
Well, I was just going to say Al Sharpton's goal is to raise tension because that expands his power and influence. That's his career, and he somehow become the czar of racial division because by having him over at the White House so often, it has gave him a greater stature. He is like the czar of division.
Quick, I want to just weigh in on your comment earlier. You said the community had changed from a predominantly white community to a predominantly black community. It's about 75% black now. 90% of the police force is white. Are you saying that the police force should reflect more accurately with the community?
I think no. I don't think you can take cops out of their job. They've been put time in there, moving up the. But it just has happened in Prince George's County, the same thing. And there were racial tensions, and part of it was because the black community did not think that they were reflective on the police department.
Does it go the other way too, though?
Yeah, so I think it goes the other way too. But I really do think that two things. They should try to recruit as many black officers as they can, and secondly, as soon as they get information out here, I think this is a case to get out as much as you can that's been proved sooner rather than later.
We got to go. Quick thoughts, anyone?
Well, it doesn't help when the chief of police either is tweeting out that people have a right to be suspicious of cops. I think that they should just stay off social media and they should just let the investigation play out.
Angie, I hate to cut you off. I apologize. The reporter's yelling in my ear. He's yelling in my ear again. We have a lot more on the unrest in Missouri next and later.